Michigan beats St. Louis 95-72 in a game where Yaxel was absolutely phenomenal. That was the Big Ten Player of the Year for a reason, right? 25 points, 9 for 13 from the field, 6 rebounds defensively, did all as well. Yaxel truly dominated that performance. If that's the type of performance that Michigan gets from Yaxel every single night, there's not going to be very many teams that will be able to beat this Michigan team because it's not only him, right? Morez Johnson had a good performance. Ade Mara, you just really watched him. Like he had 16 points, but his impact in this game was so much more than just his scoring, so much more than his rebound defensively. Every time St. Louis got into the paint, they were worried about Ade Mara. And that's one thing that I talked about in the preview as well, about how St. Louis, when it comes to proximity to the basket, they're one of the closest, or if not the closest team regarding proximity to scoring. That's going to be an issue when you go up against a guy that's 7'3", right? And this is a St. Louis team that, outside of that, is a really good three-point shooting team. And they shot not great in this one to their season average, 31%. 44% from the field. I do think Michigan size obviously played a big factor into that. Michigan size, athleticism, it really took until the second half for Michigan to completely shut things down. Like at halftime, Michigan was up, I believe, 9, and St. Louis was still hitting shots. And that is full on credit to Michigan. Not only defensively were they still able to get stops when they needed to, but they were also able to get stops and go on runs. And I think that was the biggest factor in this one, was that Michigan, every time St. Louis went on a run, Michigan responded. And it didn't really even happen in the second half. Yaxel just continued to take over in the second half. Elliot Cadeau had a really nice bounce back game. I talked about how he could be a huge factor in this one. 3 for 5 from 3, 12 points in this one. I thought Elliot Cadeau played very, very well in this game. If that's the Elliot Cadeau type of performance you're going to get, that's going to be one that will continue to help you move in the tournament. Nimari Burnett hit a couple of shots, 11 points. Every single starter for Michigan in this game scored over double digits. That just shows you that this is a Michigan team that obviously can score the basketball quite often. And this is a St. Louis team that obviously didn't have a ton of height. Michigan was absolutely able to take advantage of that, and especially on the defensive end, right? You look at 9 blacks to 1 black for Michigan. You also look, Michigan out-rebounded St. Louis 42-27. Like, this was just an absolutely dominant performance. I know in the preview I talked about how this would be an interesting game, an interesting matchup. I thought that St. Louis would be able to shoot the ball better than they are. Now, I do want to address one comment in the past video, and I think it is a comment that needs to be addressed a little bit. It's like, it's just St. Louis, right? This is a good St. Louis team. This is a St. Louis team that can shoot. This is a St. Louis team that if they get hot, they're really dangerous. You saw that in the first round. Is that Georgia's team anywhere close to this Michigan team? Absolutely not. No, this Michigan team is the third number 1 seed. Like, they're really, really good. You just saw that St. Louis has the ability to go on runs every time the other team goes on runs. And if they are able to hit shots, this is a team that can be dangerous. And I thought that, especially with like the matchup with Robbie Avila on the offensive side, I thought that he would be able to score a little bit more. He did not. 9 points, 3 for 13 from the field. He struggled shooting today. You do have to obviously give a couple of guys on St. Louis a little bit of credit, because I thought they performed really well overall. And you have Deion Brown. I thought Deion Brown performed really well, 13.4 for 7 from the field. I also really have to mention Amari McCarty as well, 14 points. Those guys were really kind of the only ones for the most part that performed well for St. Louis. St. Louis was able to hit some shots. Had a couple of guys that had a decent game from 3. I'll have to mention Brady Dunlap, 3 for 5 from 3. But if you look at just the overall portion of this game, Michigan's size was just too much. Michigan in the interior was just too much. Michigan on the board was too much. St. Louis needed to play a really good game. And I knew that they would struggle defensively against this Michigan team. A lot of teams will do that. It's just one of the greatest things to combat that is shooting really well from 3. If you hit threes, you hit them consistently, that's how you get upsets. St. Louis was not able to do that. This offense wasn't able to get going for St. Louis, and I think you have to give full credit to Michigan for that one. Obviously, St. Louis also struggled from the free throw line as well. Michigan shot pretty decent from the free throw line, 70%. Not great, not bad, but if you shoot 56% from the field, 48% from three for Michigan, this is going to be a team that probably won't be beat by very many people. I can only probably pick maybe one or two teams in this field that can beat them, and one of those teams didn't look good against a 16 seed. So yeah, really, really good win for Michigan. Michigan absolutely dominated, especially in the second half. Yeah, full on credit for them in this one. I thought this was one of those games that could get a little bit spicy, could get things a little bit interesting. I do think that Michigan was the reason why St. Louis didn't play well. I think just like I said, size, stuff like that. So good win for Michigan. Absolutely well deserved 23-point win. I didn't expect a 23-point win. I thought it'd be a little bit closer than that, but I did say in my preview that Michigan should, and I do expect Michigan to win. And absolutely massive second half, 47 points compared to 33. Michigan scored 48 in the first half, 47 in the second half, 95 points in this game. Yaxel, big part of that. Damara, big part of that. Mores Johnson, big part of it. Michigan just were able to dominate in the interior, were able to shoot well from the outside. Absolutely great win for Michigan. Continues to handle business and now is on to the Sweet 16 to face the winner of Alabama and Texas Tech. And obviously that's going to be a game taking place in Chicago. That will be a game where Michigan will absolutely be a favorite in that one. I'll obviously preview that game coming up, but we'll absolutely see what happens in that one. Good win for Michigan. We'll see what happens next week. But thanks for tuning into this episode. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, let me know your thoughts on the game overall, and make sure to tune into the preview for Michigan and whoever they play next week.